Hey guys, Andrew Logan here. Great to be with you as always for another live training session. And I have a really cool, quirky, funny, hilarious, but incredibly intelligent and incredibly successful friend of mine to bring onto the video and bring onto the podcast with you, Woodward. I might just introduce you straight away and then I'll kind of tell the story of how we met. Mate, thanks for coming on. Thanks for being here.
Oh my gosh, it's an honor. I can't wait to get started and just start rock and roll with you guys.
Well, as I was saying, I guess 15 or so months ago, mutual friends of ours, Rob Sperry and Fraser Brooks, were doing this event in Australia. And Rob's saying to everyone, guys, I've got this guy, Woodward, coming out. And his speech will be worth the cost of the event alone. It was a 2-day event, but Woodward's coming out. And I remember that's a odd name, Woodward. And I thought I'll just, social media stalk him and see what's going on here. And he's got one photo of him is test driving Ferraris in Florida or something on a beautiful sunny day and the tops are down. And then the next photo, he's there putting Lego together at 4 a.m. in the morning. And I thought, this is my kind of guy because my son especially is obsessed with Lego, both our kids. But the really cool thing was that I had the honor of opening that event. I had the honor of opening the Rob and Fraser event, which then meant I welcomed Woody to stage. And so the first time we met was kind of a very quick handshake, just side of stage. But then he stood up on stage and delivered, to this day, one of the greatest speeches I've ever heard. And I wanted him to come in and just obviously give a Cliff's Notes version of it, because I know you can't reproduce it in this kind of scenario. But well, do you want to ask the question? Do you I've titled the question that you asked, obviously, but you opened with this one question and then from there just delivered the most amazing speech from there. So maybe it's better if you even open with that.
Yeah, let's just jump into it. So what does a country song, the Bible, Marvel comics, and Amazon have to do with your success? It all comes down to collaboration. Every one of them is at the top of their game because of collaboration. So you take Old Town Road, which was the #1 song last year, for 19 weeks. Now, Lil Nas X, when he launched Country Road, it did okay for a little bit and then it just died off. And then he went with Miley Cyrus's dad and it was a collaboration and it took over the #1 spot that had been held for 25 years. You look at the Bible, there's 12 apostles, 27 books, and 1 billion books sold. Think about all the Christian type religions that share the love of the Bible. That's a collaboration. You take the #1 highest grossing movie of all time is The Avengers, 2.8 billion, and actually I think they just crossed 3 billion. And they did it because it was the first time in history that a studio decided to say, you know what? Why don't we take all of our action heroes and weave a storyline together? That had never been done before. Think about it. You always had the Batman movie you went to, the Spider-Man movie, the Wonder Woman movie. They took all the characters and wove a story together, making it the #1 movie of all time. You take Amazon. When Jeff Bezos launched in 1995, he knew he was going to be broke. He flat out told every investor, we will not make any money for at least 10 years. It actually ended up being about 20 years. They didn't really start turning a profit until 2015. And what it was a shift. It was a tipping point. In 2015, it was the first time that more than 50% of all their sales came from basically competitors. They opened up their platform and said, hey, you want to sell? You can use our website. So that collaboration was the first time, and now they have billion-dollar quarters. And obviously during COVID, I don't know about you guys in Australia, but in the States, we lived on Amazon. We didn't leave the house, it was Amazon every single day. So when it boils down to, it's all about collaboration. So if you look at the successes and failures in life, your successes and failures, you will be most successful when you collaborate. Now there's only one way to collaborate, and that's making someone feel safe. Write that word down, safe. If you can make someone feel safe, you can collaborate with them. So Andrew's one of my all-time favorite people I've ever met. I mean, the stories he told me that I will not say in public or on a recorded device still haunt me to this day. I do stay up till 3, 4, 5 in the morning every morning. In Australia, it's the next day, but he's up and we're shooting texts back and forth. And yeah, it's one of those things where I feel safe with him. So he's like, hey, would he come on this podcast? let's rock and roll, let's play together. I'm like, I'm an open book, let's just do it. So I'm gonna throw it back to you, Andrew. You take us where you wanna go, but let's just play and have as much fun as we can.
Yeah, it's funny you should mention that because I was on Fraser's podcast recently and he mentioned, he started going down the path of that story that we started telling. He was like, oh, actually, this is a kind of PG rated podcast, so we'll stop it there. But mate, I think the thing that I pick up, and obviously, like you're very entrepreneurial, and I love to surround myself and learn from entrepreneurs, and people watching this or listening to this are generally going to be quite entrepreneurial, and that can be a lonely journey. And so we talk about the need to collaborate, not just like the advantages of collaboration, but the need to collaborate. Whereas entrepreneurship can feel like you're almost that lone wolf personality. It attracts people who kind of like, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do it myself. And essentially, we don't like to outsource because we have to have control of the situation, and we can't afford to outsource a lot of the times too. So how do you find that as someone who is entrepreneurial, who is very active in doing things, but then also bringing other people into your life?
So 3 major things. Number 1, you have to have a battle buddy. Either a mentor that you work with, or a coach that you hire, or a fellow entrepreneur who's willing to go into the trenches with you. Like, you have to have a battle buddy. Number 2, you have to have hobbies. As an entrepreneur, the only way to really be successful is to outthink your problems. So to me, creativity, if my office, everything is in my office is all about creativity, color, bright, fun, because I believe I can solve any problem if I can outthink that problem. And number 3, as an entrepreneur, our biggest mistake is we try to figure out how to do everything on our own. And a mentor I spoke with years and years ago, he said, Woody, the number 1 thing I've discovered with coaching millionaires for 30 years is they never ever think about how, they think about who. So they only focus on who can do that for us, who can solve this problem for us. Solo entrepreneurs like ourselves, like, well, I gotta learn how to design my own logo, I gotta learn how to build websites, I gotta learn how to buy this. No, who can do it and how fast can they do it for you? So to me, find the who's, not the hows.
You remind me of a famous story of Henry Ford, and the people were trying to discredit him, and they kind of came into his office and said, they were asking him general knowledge questions or something, and he couldn't answer them. And they were like, you've had all this success, but you actually don't know anything. And he said, yeah, but I've got kind of 4 phones on my desk, and I can just pick up one of those phones, and someone at the end of that phone will know what to do. And you just, as you're saying that, it was surrounding yourself with people who can help you with that problem, right? And I think as well, just you're talking the creativity and art. Just before we went live, Woody had to change the photo, the picture frame behind him, because there was a particularly creative photo behind him, and we figured it was not the best, not the best for visual viewing. But I think again that is part of you and yourself as a character, and that's really what I guess leading into where the other thing I want to talk about today is personality traits and communication. And again, when we're on an entrepreneurial journey, leadership is a huge thing. And we talk about, becoming leaders and leaders in our field and attracting a group of followers. And you said the Bible is a perfect example of one person with 12 people beside him, and then the billions of followers that have come from that movement. So I did a course just the other day. I was creating a course and talking about quantifying leadership. You have a great system where you can quantify personality communication, because if you want to lead someone, you have to be able to communicate with them, right? And so do you want to jump in and just start talking about how you quantify the personality types and the communication types, and then how that allows us to be more successful in whatever we want to do?
Absolutely. So if you're playing along at home, write down these 5 these 5 letters as an acronym vertically. So D-R-I-V-E, D-R-I-V-E. It's what drives us. You can potentially increase your sales as soon as you understand the 5 drive personalities as to why people buy, why they show up, why they act the way they do. So the D is for directors. Directors are motivated by lifestyle, not money, lifestyle. The R is for relators. They are driven for relationships, community, friends, family, taking care of other people. The I is for intellectuals. They are all about systems, like get me to point A to point B as fast and as efficient as possible. V is for validators. They're all about the admiration, also giving it to others. They're the team cheerleader. They're your 4 a.m. friend. They'll pick up at the airport. They're phenomenal at taking care of everybody else. And then the last is the E. They are executives. They are driven by proof. They're the show me the money personalities. When you start to understand these 5 personalities, instantly you have the potential to really jump your sales. So I did a ton of research over 15 years. We spent $2 million, and we found that most salespeople will only close on average 20%. Just statistically, across the board, anywhere from 17 to 20%. So we realized that's one of the 5 drives. So if you look at these 5 fingers right here, D.R.I.V.E, whatever your drive is, that's the language you speak. So I'm a director. I'm all about creativity and bright, fun lifestyle things. You want to jump on a plane in the middle of the night, go to Paris? Let's do it. I won't care about the crossing the T's and dotting the I's. I'll pay the consequences later. But if you try to sell me to sit in an office and to sit in a cubicle, you better sell me razor blades because I'm slitting my throat. I'm done. There's no way I'm doing this. So what happens is you speak one of these 5 languages, and that's 20%. As soon as you learn to speak the other 4, you have the potential to increase your sales by up to 400%. That's really the short of it. I mean, it really is that simple.
Well, I was thinking about it as well. It just, when I was processing it, when you were training it, and like I love to travel like yourself as well. And, you can go into a country and not speak their language, and you will get the superficial version of everything. And you see that, okay, there's the Arc de Triomphe, there's the Eiffel Tower or whatever. But if I don't speak French, I only get 20% of the experience, right? If I can learn to speak that language and immerse myself in, and I've been, blessed a couple of times in my life to take like a full year off and just go into another country and completely immerse myself. And even if they speak English, you still learn different idiosyncrasies and their communication and their slang and the words they use, and you communicate in with their culture. And it's so important in everything we do, isn't it?
Absolutely. And it's funny because I like to use that same analogy on going to foreign countries. You wouldn't think twice if you're going to go to China. I've worked in China a lot, and I don't speak Mandarin, but I hire somebody who does. And so if you're going to a foreign country and you're going to do business and you really need to know what to say, you're going to hire somebody. So why do we think that business communication is any different? We all know that all these personalities aren't the same. And so if we can identify a snapshot of what somebody is, and there's 3 tasks to identify what their drive is, and then all you have to do is curtail your speech, your presentation, your product's benefits to meet one of those 5 drives. And honestly, at that point, it's a slam dunk.
Yeah. So do you want to talk, if we like kind of run through the 5 again, just a pro and a con of each, kind of like the strength and the weaknesses, because your greatest strength is also your biggest potential weakness, isn't it? And I know, like I'm an intellectual and I love to learn, but that can also mean I'm very happy just to sit and read a book and not actually talk to people. And you can't run a business when you're just hiding behind a book. But I just love to learn. So as from the director point of view, what is the strength and weakness of a director?
So directors have, they're very creative, life purpose, free and independent, driven for appearance, they're driven for fun, they're driven to experience life at the fullest. Now, that's their strength. The weakness is the same thing of that, reversed. So they're so creative, they won't stop creating. So I'm a director, so I've written 42 books, and only 3 of those 42 are any good. But I keep writing because I want to be creative and I want to build and I want to make stuff, do stuff. So the problem with that is they will always create and not actually sell. They won't stop and say, okay, now I'm going to execute this. So with the desire for life experiences, I don't want to say they're flighty because that's not it. They're very driven, but if that bright, shiny object syndrome appears, they'll go for that, hoping that will give them the lifestyle they want. And then let's look at relators. Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, just when you're saying, and Woody and my wife obviously get along very well because they're both directors. And you do just remind me of about 15 years ago when Angie and I met, and she was hand making soaps. And there were these beautiful soaps, and she was getting very creative, and all these different, ingredients and flavors and sort of topics or whatever with the soap. I don't really understand it, but I remember a mate of mine coming around one day, and we had crates and crates and crates and crates of soap in the house. And he's like, "What is this?" And I said, "Oh, Angie's been making soaps." And he's like, "Does she know how to sell it?" It was a simple question. I'm like, "No," because she was so creative, she couldn't sell the old one because no, I've made it better. And so there was that emotional attachment that batch is crap because I've made a better one. And then this next one, she got even more creative and made a better one. And then so she couldn't sell that one because she didn't want, and I'm like, people don't understand that you've made a better one, and it's really up to the market what is better, not what you think. But you just reminded me of that perfect story that she could never part with the soap because it was part of her creativity. So 15 years later, we're still using the soaps that she made 12 years ago. Beautiful. I mean, I don't take a lot of care of my skin, but I don't really need to either because I just use this beautiful soap once a day. So anyway.
No, my story. I have a garage full of projects that I've done and things that I've done. It's just, and that's a director. They're very driven, very creative, very purposeful driven, but they will always pursue the next creative thing more than actually selling what they currently have. So then relators, they're all about community. So their strength is mother hen. They'll pull them in, put everyone underneath their wing. They will sacrifice for everybody. They will make sure the team succeeds before they will take something out for themselves. That's the strength, and that's also the weakness. They will wear themselves out, always taking care of everybody else, and never, on the airplane, put the oxygen mask on yourself first so that you can help other people. They're just putting oxygen masks on everybody, and they're passing out about every 3 months in the hallway. So I grew up with my mother, who's a relator, and she was always sacrificing for everybody else, and sometimes physically getting sick because she just would wear herself out. Third one. Okay, do you want to comment on that, or do we want to go on intellectuals?
No, I think it's that same thing of, you can't give from a well that's empty, isn't it? Like we have to fill our own wells so that we can give to others. And if we can, there's always that, especially, I love to talk a lot about the money mindset that having more money makes you greedy. No, but if you have an overflowing well, then you can give more. If there's not enough in the well that you can't give out, then that's a challenge, right, for everyone. So I think it is that thing of we have to save ourselves first. There's an honor in saving others, but we kind of got to save ourselves first too.
I've always believed a drowning man can't save another drowning man. And so we don't think that's selfish at all. So I don't know why we think it's selfish to take care of oneself. That's being self-aware. The more that you have, the more you can serve, the more you can take care of other people. But if you're a relator and you're always focused on the weakness side of it, always taking care of others, thinking that this is going to help them, it might help them, but in the process ruin you, and then you won't give any service to anyone else. So third one is intellectual, like yourself. So intellectuals are very, very smart. They're the smartest people in the room. Just ask them, they'll tell you. Now they know how to solve problems. They know how to solve problems. They know how to be very, very efficient. The weakness side is what I call paralysis by analysis. So sometimes they have a tough time executing because they're always looking for that best decision, that next amount of information, or they want to build one more system or one more Excel spreadsheet to figure out that one more process to make that one time better. My wife is what we call a director in intellectual, the first and second drive. And so she's spontaneous like I am, drop everything, go do everything, but then she always wants to put a system behind it, which just butts heads with me like, no, we'll buy clothes. We don't need to pack. We'll just go buy some clothes. It'll be fine. And so that's the intellectual side. And let's ask you, Andrew, for your life experience, being an intellectual, where do you see your strength and where do you see your weaknesses?
Yeah, so as you say, I'm that EI, that sort of executive intellectual. And as you say, I love to learn, and I just love to always be learning about things. And I do need to as you say, I remember learning years ago, someone saying the most important thing about a restaurant, it's not the food, it's not the location, it's not the price, it's not the service. It's that there's a starving crowd of hungry people out the door. Because if no one's hungry, then it doesn't really matter what your restaurant does well. And that's always been something that I've always got to go back to, of that you need to make sure that everything you do is actually feeding a starving crowd, because I might think it's the greatest thing ever, and you're still learning that. You put a post on your social media and like, this post's going to go viral, and it gets like 3 likes, and then you do something quite, like, well, just quickly post something, and it gets a lot of traction, and you're sort of like, it's not what I care about at the end of the day. It's really what the people want. So I think there's the process of that, but is enjoying that learning. That, okay, I've got to enjoy learning what works and what doesn't, and enjoying the trial and error, and just committing to the progress and committing to the mastery of the skill I'm trying to learn.
Beautiful. And do you find that sometimes you'll get so much information you can't make the decision you think you should make? And that's what happens with intellectuals. They'll push it. They'll like, I got to read one more book, or I need to interview one more person. I got to find out more information on this topic before I take action. And so for intellectuals, that's where they'll get stuck. Fourth one is validators. These are our team cheerleaders. They are great at giving validation to others. They are wonderful at lifting people up, supporting, very trustworthy, very caring and giving. The weakness side is if you turn that on themselves externally, then they look for the validation, they look for the attention, they look for the recognition, the respect, and the trust. And if they don't get it, they get offended very, very quickly. So people don't fire their bosses. They don't leave their industry. They fire their boss because their boss doesn't make them feel validated. So you think about, if you're a validator, if you're listening to this and you've discovered your drive and you're a validator, look at the life decisions you've made. You'll discover that most of your massive shifts is where you are being violated, offended, not being trusted, not being respected, not being cared for. So the key thing as a validator, and for all 5 drives, is learning to validate it internally, not externally. So for you, by you, versus for you, by other people. And if you do that, you're always safe. That's just putting the oxygen mask on yourself so that you can serve other people. And then the last one is the executive. They are that, driven, show me the money, gotta win, very goal-oriented, very focused on the end result, like yourself. Get things done, get a lot of things done. They want to win, they want to control, they want to achieve their goals. Now, if they're the weakness side, if they're being external, means they want to beat other people, not win over themselves. They want to beat someone else. They want to control the environment. They want to win and be able to achieve their goal at all costs. So that's where you got to weigh out the balance of making sure that you're validating yourself internally so that you're not destroying people externally.
Yeah, I think that we can. And again, when we get into that kind of lone wolf entrepreneurial personality, sometimes we forget that we have to lead people. We can't just be so focused on our own goals. And actually, I love the NFL. I follow the NFL a lot. And I was just reading this morning about like Trevor Lawrence. He's the #1 draft pick, consensus pick, all that kind of stuff. And he caused a uproar the other day because he's like, I don't have a chip on my shoulder. I'm internally motivated. And some people just couldn't understand that how can you not be driven by external validation to prove someone wrong? And other people like, you can be successful with internal motivation, right? Like the fact that he's internally motivated and not just trying to prove someone wrong is actually a good thing. And so I think,
go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt you. Go ahead.
You go. Yep. You're the expert.
It's actually the #1 way to be successful is internal validation. Because if you look throughout your life, the only time you were truly successful is when you bet on yourself internally, not to prove the world wrong, but to validate who you were because that's what you chose to do. Meaning, how do you act if nobody's watching? That's that internal motivation. Like I said earlier, I've written 42 books, I've read over 2,000 biographies, and I've watched hundreds of documentaries. And you look at Mother Teresa, Rosa Parks, you look at Walt Disney, Henry Ford, Steve Jobs, Elon Musk, anybody who's truly put their footprint on humanity was driven internally. They had this desire from the inside. The rest of the world looking out on them thought they were crazy, thought they're insane at times. The greatest investor of all time, Warren Buffett, wouldn't buy a single tech stock in 1999. They put him on the front cover of Time magazine, said he's archaic. This is 1990. This is 22 years ago. He's lost his mind. He should retire. He didn't get affected by the whole .com bomb because he was so internal. He knew his parameters. I know you're a heavy investor, so I brought that up. He is so internal on his decision making It's why Berkshire Hathaway is one of the #1 greatest stocks of all time. So, and here's the real ironic part of this. The more internal you are, I mean, the more you validate yourself internally, the more the external world will give you praise. Like the Fords, Disney, Mother Teresa's, they praise those people because we're so enamored by somebody who can be the shining light in a dark world. So if you want to be successful, learn to validate yourself from the inside out.
Yeah, I think you bring up that great M word of motivation, and it's a common question people are always asking, how do I motivate someone? How can I motivate myself? And again, it comes back to that, well, there's inspiration and motivation really does need to be an internal thing. I can't motivate you. I can inspire you into action. Yep. And as you say, if I can speak your language, I can inspire you to make a decision, but I can't motivate you because that's an internal drive from your side.
Yeah.
So I think
I was reading a great book the other day, and I just remember the quote. He was referencing athletes and motivation and people, how do they become successful? And he said this one quote that I'll never forget: "What pain are you willing to sustain?" So a lot of times in personal development, we think, I want the big house and the car and the fancy trips and the loving family and all this great stuff. And he just spun it. He's like, well, we all want that. That's stupid. Who doesn't want that? He said, if you want to truly be happy and successful, what pain are you willing to sustain? And then he broke it down. I know you have always inspired me on the way you take care of your body and the way you lift and what you do. And you're willing to endure way more pain than I am, and that's why you look the way you look and I look the way I look. So we're willing, all of us are willing to sustain a different amount of pain. So his question was, what pain do you want to sustain, and what good problems do you want to have? Because the emotion of success, that feeling of success, only happens at the end of conquering a problem. No one feels successful because you woke up. But you feel successful if you push hard all night long, did an all-nighter, and pulled off the impossible because you overcame something. So his whole question is, what pain do you want to sustain, and what problems do you want to have?
Yeah, that's it. There's a sacrifice to everything, isn't there? And we just have to. The personal development can be an ugly journey as we start to push through some pain and peel back some layers and all that kind of stuff. And again, there's no greater personal development than getting into entrepreneurship and really discovering what your values are and who your friends are and who believes in you. And there's some lessons that only no bed and no dinner can treat you, kind of stuff, and sleeping or something. You learn those lessons. But mate, I guess just tying it all together and conscious of your time. So the title that we sort of talk about is, driving 400% more sales to your business, as you're saying. How do you improve? Like if you know that you've identified who you are and you've identified how you communicate both externally and like to listen as well as you speak and listen, how do you improve your communication skills in the other drive so that you can help? Well, actually, sorry, probably a better question is, how do you identify the person you're speaking to then so that you can help communicate better to them?
Great question. So I wrote a book called D.R.I.V.E Sells, and in the book there's a simple questionnaire. There's a PDF that you can print off. I have cards like credit cards that are the drive. You can help them identify that way. There's 3 questions you can ask. I know we don't have a lot of time to go into it. I'll just give it to you very, very short and brief. But the question is, other than work and family, so you want to quantify other than work and family, because statistically speaking, people don't want to talk about work because 75% of people don't like their job, and 50% of relationships end in divorce. So don't ask people, where do you live? What do you do? Are you married? No. Other than work and family, what are you most passionate about? So that's first question. Second question, when you aren't able to do that passion, how does it negatively impact you? Third question, when you are able to and insert that passion, how does it make you feel? And first of all, one of the most amazing things is you're gonna have the most in-depth conversation you've ever had with anybody. So try that with your friends and family first, and then with your customers. You'll be able to identify based off their answer whether they're a director, a relator, an intellectual validator, an executive. And in the book, D.R.I.V.E Sells, Chapter 7 walks you through that, gives you a script, helps you identify it, questions you can ask, how to list your products to attract certain drives, Like I said, we don't have time to go on that, but number one is understand what drives you. Like that's the most important thing. Get the oxygen, learn how to validate who you are first. Then learn what drives other people and simply just give them what you want, what they want. I don't think sales is hard. Like I really genuinely don't. It's service. Meaning if I know what you want and you like a certain thing, then I'm just gonna give you more of it. And none of us ever get tired or bored of getting more of what we want. So we all want to feel validated. We all want to feel loved, respected. We all want to feel important. That's our drive. Just help them achieve that in your products and you'll have a huge success.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head there as well with the, and I just did a podcast on this just the other day. Like people like, oh, I don't want to get into sales, or I feel icky about sales. Sales is an exchange of value, and sales is solving a problem for someone, right? And if you can identify their problem and identify what they need and then provide them a solution, you have helped. Like you haven't taken from them, you have helped them with the solution to their life. Now, obviously there's, cold call, telemarketing and aggressive sales techniques, and in every industry there's going to be negatives. But if you're solving a problem for someone, like providing more or taking away pain or providing more pleasure, then there's no dishonor in that, right?
It's like, to me, sales is the highest honor on the land, and here's why. Think about COVID and go back a year. It's actually basically a year ago today, where we all were. The entire world will not change until salespeople go out and solve problems. So yes, I want to give credit to all the frontline people, all the nurses, doctors. I respect all them, but you have to even go further than that. There was a salesperson who sold that doctor the machine to do the x-ray. There was a salesperson that sold the bed in the hospital that the patient lived in. Nothing exchanges hands with anyone without a salesperson first. So the vaccine does not exist until a salesperson convinced the government that, hey, we can solve this problem for you. So to me, sales is simply service. I believe you get paid in direct proportion to the problems that you solve. So if you solve a lot of high net worth problems, you get compensated very, very well. If you solve very small, very menial problems, like, and not knocking any profession, but handing someone's their burger across the counter, you're not going to get paid a lot.
Service to many leads to greatness, right?
Yeah.
So they say. So guys, if you want to learn more about your drive, I have a picture of Woody's book here. And of course, because Woody is a director, beautiful, let me find one page, like there's beautiful color photos all the way through. So it's not going to be a boring read because you're going to have bright colors in your face all day because that's who Woody is. And guys, you can get the book from Amazon, but if you go to Woody's like social media, or if you go to his website, drivesalesbook.com, you get a heap more bonuses as well. He's going to throw in a lot more stuff. I'm very honored to actually have a signed copy, or a few signed copies actually in my possession. So very, very honored to have that. And mate, great to have you on. As always, thank you so much for your time, guys.
Thank you. Thank you. Honestly, Andrew, I think you're the greatest people I've ever met in my life, and we only spent a short time together, and I cannot wait till we burn the castle to the ground again.
Well, I just spoke to Rob this morning actually, and he's trying to figure out when he can finally get back to Australia. So I'm sure he'll probably message you, and you, being you, will just tag along with an hour's notice. By close when you arrive, won't you? But guys, follow Woody on social media too, because he puts a ton of free value on his social media too. He puts his Lego up, he puts his beautiful cars and the beautiful house that he's living in at the moment too. You can kind of, if you're that executive type and you want to set your goals, just have a look at his lifestyle. But he does put a ton of value up on his social media, so make sure you follow him. If you're into TikTok, follow his son. Because his son's a TikTok sensation as well. My daughter follows Woody's son, which is awkward. we might be together forever through family. But mate, I appreciate your time, and thanks to you for being on, and thanks to everyone for watching in. And guys, we will see you next